Nothing against the Beatitudes subject. Let's see here. Don't care. Facebook. What's up? There it is. There's me 30 seconds ago. Share. What do I do? Right post. Post. Okay. How's it going? Welcome back. Okay, let's pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Oops. All right, today, Ecclesiastes 5. I might even do 6 as well, because I think I'm a week short. I wanted to finish this book of the Bible by, before I take my Christmas break and never see you again. So let's see, where are we at? We're at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Thanksgiving. Also Thanksgiving, I'm taking 2 weeks off. Where was I? 10? 11. Yeah, I'll do 2 today, and then we'll end on 12. Maybe I'll even do 2, 2 weeks in a row, or some other time. That way we can end before Thanksgiving. But here's the thing. So Thanksgiving, I'm going to be gone out of town, including the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And then the week after that there's going to be a diaconate ordination of one of our seminarians, Deacon Terrence. So this guy knows. So I'm not going to feel like doing Bible study then. And then the week after that is almost Christmas. So maybe I'll just finish this before, and then I never have to see you guys after that. We'll see. We still have a month and a half, so we'll figure it out. Okay, Ecclesiastes 5. I don't know what I want to summarize from last week. Oh, I remember what it was. The last verse of chapter 4, I said I wanted to attach it to this week, so I'm just going to do that. So start with the last verse of chapter 4. That's where we're at. Watch your step when you go into the house of God, for understanding is more favored than the offering of sacrifice by fools, for they do not know even how to do evil, which is kind of funny. People are so stupid that they don't even know how to sin. But it introduces the theme of the next chapter, or one of the themes, the first theme of the next chapter, which is our communication with God. Now, this chapter is going to be evidence against one of the readings of Ecclesiastes, which is 100% purely humanistic and sort of non-religious. In fact, this interpreter, Robert Alter, reads Ecclesiastes as a sort of purely human wisdom, just about human life thing that has really, and he sort of says apparently the last chapter really shifts into religion, and he thinks that was kind of added later. This chapter is really the first, at least, let me tell you how much of it. The first, at least 5 verses, which is a third of the chapter, really is just about how we communicate with God. Now, to put this into context, everything so far, or almost everything so far in the book, has been about how to mess up your life as a human being. Okay, right? You work too much, you don't have any time to enjoy what you work for, you leave your property to your children who maybe don't even appreciate it, and you're not even going to be alive to see them enjoy it. All of these sort of ways that we can mess up our lives. Our relationship with God, even on a kind of external level, because this is all going to be about how we make vows to God and how we speak to God sort of in our external verbal prayers, there's going to be a way in which doing that wrong is going to mess up our life the same way that the other stuff is going to mess up our life. Now, the reason I like this is that in the sort of traditional ranking of good deeds and of like the virtues of human beings, religion, which is the sort of moderating virtue of how we relate to God, religion is placed within, guess which virtue religion is placed in. You guys know the virtues? There's like the 4 cardinal virtues: temperance, fortitude, justice, and prudence. Okay, those are the 4 cardinal virtues. There's all kinds of other virtues: patience and goodness and whatever. Not good, like kindness and magnanimity and generosity and all that. But those are the sort of big ones, and everything else kind of fits into those. Okay, so let me write them down. Let's see if you guys can guess. So temperance. I'll explain what each one is. Temperance, fortitude, justice, prudence. Temperance has mostly to do with moderating bodily desires, mostly sex and food. That's what temperance sort of moderates. Make sure you don't do too much or in the wrong way or with the wrong person or whatever, okay? Fortitude is more or less something like courage. It helps us stand up against our fear and deal with difficult situations, okay? Justice has to do with our interaction with others, okay? Other people, not taking advantage of them, not giving them too much or too little or whatever. There's also a kind of justice towards ourself, kind of an analogous way. And then prudence has to do with, sort of generally speaking, understanding what's right and applying it in our lives. Okay, so in a way, this is called the sort of, I think it's called the queen of the virtues of the cardinal virtues. So this sort of moderates everything else. Which one do you think religion fits under? If you were forced to gun to your head, it's got to be one of these 4. Our relationship with God. Prudence, we have one guess. What other guesses do we have? Fortitude, okay. What else? There's 2 more. Those are both wrong. She's taking justice. Anybody want to take, what was the other one? Temperance? You want to say temperance? It's justice. Why is it justice? And why does that make sense? Not just justice in a kind of supernatural way. Natural justice. Plain old fairness. That's where religion fits in. Why? Because justice has to do with repaying what is due, what is owed to somebody. And it is the teaching of the sort of traditional theology of the church that, and in fact, this is even in St. Paul, this is at the beginning of Romans, you do not need revelation to know that you owe something to God. You do not need God to speak through a prophet. If you're just sort of a clear-thinking human being, you look around in the world, you realize you're alive, you realize I didn't make myself alive, well, thanks to whoever did this. You don't need to know his name is Yahweh or Jesus or whatever. You just sort of have an awareness, just when you're clear, when you're thinking clearly, that there's somebody that you should be thanking for giving you life and existence and all the other things in the world. Okay, just according to nature. And to not do that, to fail to do that, would be to act unjustly. Just on a plain old human level. Now, much less when it's revealed and God gives us his grace and Jesus died on the cross and all that, even more so with all that stuff. But even without any of that, there's a kind of justice that's due. And if we fail to do that, what does it mean that we're unjust? When you break any of these virtues, when you do something vicious, the fundamental damage that's done is to you. So when you fail to worship God well or correctly, you hurt yourself. You mess up your own life. Okay? That's why, contrary to Alter and to other sort of humanistic thinkers, interpreters of this book, the stuff about God that we're going to run into in this chapter fits right into this book. Because this book, at least in some respect, is about how to mess up your life. And one of the ways you mess up your life is by being unjust in your relationship to God. Good? So let's see what that might look like. Okay. So that being said, watch your step when you go into the house of God. For understanding, and apparently the same Hebrew word can mean obedience. So that's sort of open to interpretation. We're in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, last verse, and we're about to go to chapter 5. Is more favored than the offering of sacrifice by fools, for they do not even know how to do evil. So the main theme seems to be that this is introducing is when you enter the house of God, when you go to worship God, which I hope all of you do, and hopefully all of you go to Mass on Sunday or to the Saturday vigil, because Bible study is not going to I'm just going to go to Bible study instead. No, what we're doing right now is not a sacrament. I don't know what this is. Some horrible thing, I don't know. But when you do it, and he's assuming you do, watch your step. Do it with understanding. Know what you're doing and do it well and think about what you're doing. Now, what does this make an assumption about? When we're little kids and we're giving something to our parents, right? What do little kids give to their parents? Like, you know how the kids will do drawings in school? What else? The macaroni art. You know what I'm talking about? Those things. The parents accept it because it's okay, it's a cute thing my kid made for me, right? It's not very good though. Little kids' drawings are usually pretty crappy, right? But the parents still accept it because, why? Because it's the best the kid can do. What if it's not though? It sort of detracts even a little kid. It's not like the parents are going to punish the kid, or no. But yes, to God, we're like those little toddlers. And the best thing we can do for God is still going to be pretty crappy by his standards. But we still have to do our best. And that's the thing he cares about more. Okay? More than the sort of, it's not like we're going to do something that's going to make his life better. Just like the little toddler is not going to, I don't know what they would do to make an adult's life better. Man, this work of art is actually so beautiful, it'll actually improve the house when you hang it up. No, it's going to be an embarrassing thing. You hang it on the fridge for a week and then hope they forget about it, and then you take it down, right? And then you save it for when they're an adult to embarrass them. With God, again, we're not going to improve his life, but he still wants us to do our best. Why? You go back to the things we've been talking about a couple weeks ago. The authenticity of our love is a good thing for us. Okay. And if we go into the house of God and we're worshiping God the Creator and we half-ass it, that's unjust. And that's going to hurt us. It's not going to hurt God. It's going to mess us up. Why is it going to mess us up? Well, I'm going to tell you I'm going to inject a Father Andy reason right now. If God is the best thing in your life, and if he's not the best thing in your life, then he's not your God. So if God's the best thing in your life, and you don't really care much about him, and you don't really try your best when you're in front of him, everything else in your life is just going to be garbage. What effort are you going to make with another human being if even with God you don't really care much? So it's going to sort of lower the sort of value or effectiveness of your own love. You guys kind of see that? So watch your step when you go to the house of God, for understanding is more favored than the offering of sacrifice by fools. It is important to make a point. Fool does not mean somebody who has a low IQ, a simple person. A fool is somebody who is foolish, who sort of should know better. You guys following that? This is not like an insult to somebody who's has a disability or something. Okay? For they do not even know how to do evil. That's just kind of like a little jab. That's how foolish they are. Okay, let's go to chapter 5. And let's see how this kind of plays out. Be not rash with your mouth, and let your heart not hurry to utter a word before God. Jesus echoes the same exact idea. When he says when you pray, don't just babble like the pagans. Don't just say words just because you think, if you say a lot of words, God's going to be impressed. You ever do that? You might. Okay. It's not about quantity. It's not like you should say exactly 17 words, but once you get to 18, then it's a sin. It's about meaning everything that you say. Be not rash with your mouth, and let your heart not hurry to utter a word before God. You ever see those like in 5th grade, you have a book report and you didn't read the book, you know, and then you kind of pull some words out of your butt to like fill up the word count. I have to grade papers, right? And I tell my students, like, look, I want whatever 6 pages from them. And I just tell them, like, look, if you're done after 5 pages, just stop. Don't BS a page because that's going to be annoying to read. Don't do that with God. He knows what you're oh, God, I got to reach my 6 page count because that's somehow more eloquent. Don't try to sound eloquent in front of God. Just be yourself and talk to him. Okay? For God is in the heavens and you are on earth. You're not going to impress him, in other words. See that? Therefore, let your words be few. Now, what does few mean? Again, I don't think it's a number. Let your words be exactly what you mean, not more. Now, what's an example that maybe we have to think about for a second, specifically as Catholics? The Rosary. That's one example. A lot of us pray it. I pray it all the time. I pray it every day. And there's a lot of words to it, and sometimes we're repeating the same word over and over again. So what about that? Is that like, are we kind of going against this? We are going against this if we're praying the Rosary in this way. And it is possible to pray the Rosary in this way, where we're just babbling and blah, 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 and now I'm done and check it off. And now, God, you owe me one because I prayed you a Rosary. How can you pray the Rosary, though? Put your heart in it. Now, how do you do that? One thing that's really smart about the Rosary, I don't know if your brains do this. My brain is not able to like focus on a thing for more than like a couple of seconds. I'm really bad. I think I have some kind of like thing. I have to talk to Emmanuel about this. I need some kind of maybe I don't know. But I've never been able to do that. I've never been able to like just really focus on one thing. So I'm like always jumping from thing to thing. You know what's smart about the Rosary? It's sort of made for people like me. Because like you're praying the Hail Mary, and you're like, Hail Mary, but then you're also like thinking about the mystery. So if you have a brain like mine, you can kind of jump back and forth. And you mean both of them. You know? It's not that the Hail Mary is boring. But, you know, if you just don't have a good ability to focus, like some people do, you're allowed to switch your mind to, okay, I'm praying the Hail Mary, but then I'm also thinking about Jesus carrying the cross. You know, that 4th sorrowful mystery. And you can go back and forth and do that. And then you can even think about the people that you're praying for. And now you have 3 things you can jump back and forth to.
You're not only allowed, you're expected to.
Yeah, you're supposed to somehow meditate on the mystery. Yeah. You see that? So you can do that. You can jump back and forth. But if you really mean it, every jump, you're not breaking this little command here. You're doing what Koheleth is telling you to do. Mean it. For a dream. Now let's see what this next verse is. On the other hand, though, if your prayer is like, if you're really a kind of quiet person and you just don't want to say a lot, if you want to let your words be good and just sort of say, God have mercy on me, and that's your prayer, beautiful, by all means. Say what you mean. You know? For a dream comes with much business, and the fool's voice with much talk. So he's kind of, the parallel here is kind of funny. You know how in a dream you're doing all kinds of weird crap that doesn't make sense? He's saying that's the way dumb people talk, is the way dreams are, where dreams are just like, what the heck is going on? That's what it sounds like when you're listening to some, a foolish person. I think that's right. That sounds right to me. As all of you are thinking about me right now. When you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it, for there is no pleasure in fools. So God is not going to be pleased with fools. What does it mean to be a fool? He's kind of giving a definition here. Somebody who promises something to God and then doesn't fulfill it. Why would you promise something to God not to fulfill it and not fulfill it? Because you don't mean what you say. And again, goes back to mean what you say. Or you do mean it, but you didn't really think it through. Or you really want something and you're trying to bribe God. Don't do that. That's dumb. God doesn't need whatever it is you're promising him. You're not going to help him out. Just be a good person and try to love him, and then he'll give you what you need. Okay. What you vow, fulfill. Better that you do not vow than that you vow and do not fulfill. All right, all that's fine. Do not let your mouth make your body offend, nor say before God that it was a mistake. All this is about a vow. Like, don't make promises to God that you're not going to follow through with. Why should God rage over your voice and ruin your handiwork? For in many dreams are vanity and much talk. Instead, fear God. Let me just look at that last sentence. So just like the dreams, the sort of scattered, chaotic, weird stuff that just happens in dreams, that's all vanity. It's all emptiness. It all means nothing. And there's a lot of babbling in that too. And if that's the way you're living your life, just doing random stuff, saying a bunch of random stuff to God, don't do that. And he says, instead, fear God. Fear of God is another one of these. It'll fit right in here as well. It's a virtue. And it doesn't mean run away from God. It means respect him. And if you respect somebody, you'll get to the point. You know? You're not going to, I don't know. I'm that person sometimes. I don't want to like point the finger at everybody else. But like, let's say you have a question for somebody. And I'll get this in class sometimes. Jack knows this one. Some kids will raise their hand and they'll be, okay, Father Andy, I have a question. And then they'll start going into a story. And then I'll be like, all right, is there a question here? You said something about a question. Like 5 minutes later, they're still telling the story. Like, and I got to do that 3-4 times before they kind of like, oh, they stop doing that. And then the new freshman class comes and I have to start over. If you respect not just the person you're talking to, but the people that are around you waiting for you to get to the point, you're going to get to the point. And using extra words, for whatever reason, there's a kind of disrespect to the person you're speaking to and to the people around you. You really are kind of wasting their time. And here he says, instead of doing that, fear God, have that respect sort of embedded in your heart already. And then when you say what you're going to say it, and that's it. And you can say, okay, thank you for hearing me out. Peace out. Okay? Good. All right, that's the God stuff. Let's move on to the next section. Not a lot, but there might be more coming up. We'll see. If you see the oppression of the poor and the perversion of justice and right in the province, okay, now he's going to shift to human justice. Okay? There's a funny line. If you see the oppression of the poor and the perversion of justice and right. What do you think it's going to say after that? If you hadn't read it already. If you see the oppression of the poor, what should you do? Rise up, workers. Right?
Violence doesn't help violence.
Okay, so let's say it's not violence. Rise up and strike. There was a big newspaper strike when I was in high school in Michigan. The Detroit News and the Detroit Free Press, their workers were all striking. It was a big deal, and it went on for years. And they went around and they were picketing, and then people that took their jobs, they're called scab workers. It's this nasty word you give them, and all this stuff. And then they went around and vandalized. There used to be these things called newspaper machines. It was before these were out. It was in BC. You ever see BC after a year? It was during that time. Okay. And so there were these newspaper machines, and people would put a quarter or some money, like 50 cents or whatever, into the machine, and then it would click open, and they would take a newspaper. Right? Look how much you trusted people back then. They would put in a quarter, the entire thing would open. You could just take these machines so that the quarters didn't go into the secure container inside the machine. They just kind of fell through, and they fell into the bottom of the machine. And you know what that means? That meant that Father Andy, before he was Father Andy in high school, and his friends got to eat lunch that day. Because we took those quarters and we went to Jeff's Pizza and we bought some slices of pizza for lunch every day. But in my defense, I never took more than I needed for that day. I was like Robin Hood for myself. Okay? Don't do that. I should have done that. Anyway, if you see the oppression of the poor, you think he's going to say all these sort of Jesus-y, make the world a better place thing. You know what he says? Be not amazed at the matter. If you see the oppression of the poor, don't be surprised. Now, why shouldn't we be surprised that he's saying that? Because this is like the most big book of the Bible. All he said so far is that the world sucks and everything's terrible and everything's empty and has no meaning and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm not expecting this guy to say as much. Yeah, if you see injustice in the world, well, there's injustice in the world. He doesn't say don't do anything about it. He says don't be amazed. Why? For he who is high has a higher one watching him, and a still higher ones over them. And the gain of the land is in everything. A king is subject to the field. This is a really interesting way to think about this. This is about sort of like power dynamics. Okay, so don't be shocked, and it's also like don't be that worried. Why? Don't be that worried, because he who is high, so the manager who's oppressing these workers, he has a boss too, and his boss is oppressing him. And that guy has another boss, and that guy's oppressing him, and that guy has another boss, and somewhere at the top there's this pinnacle. And look at the next sentence. And the gain of the land is in everything. A king is subject to the field. Doesn't matter how high up you are, because all of them, that entire little pyramid, the entire big pyramid, is all resting on that worker that's like, working the field. They're the foundation. And if they shake a little bit, the entire thing could crumble. So I don't know if he's like, again, suggesting some kind of uprising or something like that. He doesn't really talk about that right now. But that's what this line at the end is. A king is subject to the field. The king is supposed to be, everyone's supposed to be subject to the king, but he's the subject, because without that field, nobody's eating. You know what I mean? Again, I don't know. I don't think this is like Marxist, like Cuban rebellion or something like that. On the other hand, he doesn't really say to do anything about it. So, but then the third thing is, everything sucks anyway, and everybody's going to die, as Koheleth has already said it many, many times. So maybe he doesn't really care to do it or not. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money. We've already seen that. He who loves wealth will have no crop. I don't know why that is. He doesn't really explain that. This too is vanity. As bounty multiplies, those who consume it multiply. And what is the benefit for its owner except what his eyes see? Okay, now we're back to that theme. We've already seen money is not going to satisfy you. We've already seen this too. What benefit is it to own that field other than what your eyes see? Okay, I own the field. Okay, big deal. I can walk the field whenever I want. Like the guys, I've talked about this already. You go to La Jolla, there's these people that have these fancy houses right on the water. What benefit is it to live on the water? I can go there whenever I want. And for free. You just wasted like $8 million, dummy. Getting the same thing for free that you are. What's the benefit other than what your eyes see? And my eyes can see the same thing. See that? The actual enjoyment. That's the thing that we forget as we're pursuing the stuff that we think we need before we can enjoy them. But we don't need that stuff. We can enjoy it now. So it's also kind of going back to that hippie discussion we had. Man, this is we're already talking about Marx and hippies now. What are we going to do with Father Andy? Sweet is the worker's sleep. Oh, this is not helping me. Whether he eats little or much. And the rich man's surfeit does not let him sleep. That's kind of cool. The poor guy, he has nothing to worry about. What are you going to steal from me? Oh, you're going to steal my stuff? My shoes? You can have my freaking shoes. I'll buy another one for $1 tomorrow, He has nothing to worry about. The rich guy, and so he sleeps soundly. The rich guy who has all kinds of stuff, he's worried about them. He's not going to sleep as well. I like it.
Eats too much, he has a stomachache.
Yeah, sweet is the worker's sleep. Whether he eats little or much, he's good. The rich man, his excess does not let him sleep. Good. This is our next section now. Again, this is sort of repetitious, so that's why I'm going to finish this and go to the next chapter. I have time for that. There's a blighting evil that I have seen under the sun. Wealth kept for its owner for his harm. It's pretty similar to stuff we've seen before. And that wealth is lost in a bad business. And he begets a son with nothing in his hand. So what is another tragic? He went through a tragic situation last chapter. What's this tragic situation? Not somebody who works hard and then dies before they can enjoy it. That was last chapter. This one, they work hard and then they just lose it all. How might somebody lose it all? Well, I mean, it could be economic issues. In this period of time, it could be like a bad year and there's just no crops and everybody's just starving that year. Today, it could be all kinds of things. You know, gambling is one thing that I know a bunch of Chaldeans that have lost a ton of money gambling and like have wrecked their lives and their homes. Terrible. Millions and millions and millions of bucks. You know, so that sucks. So that's a blighting evil. You have all this wealth, and then by the time you beget a son with nothing in his hand. You lose it all, and you were wealthy, and now you have a kid and you have nothing. Okay, that's pretty bad. It sort of shows the transitory nature of wealth. As he came out from his mother's womb, naked will he return to go as he came, and nothing will he bear off from his toil that he brings in his hand. This is almost a direct quote from the book of Job. And it's not the first one. I think it's the second or third time Koheleth has almost quoted Job. So it shows that Job might be in the back of the mind of the author of this book as well. You know what Job is about? It's about a guy who's really rich and loses everything. Just like he's talking about here. Okay. And this too is a blighting evil. As he came, so he goes. And what gain does he have that he should toil for the wind? All his days too he goes in darkness, with much worry and illness and rage. Yeah, that's a pretty blighting evil. I like the word blighting. Blighting evil. Somebody works their butt off year after year after year, and then they just lose it all like that. And all that worry and all that toil and all those extra hours and all that fun that they missed out on so that they could get something that just disperses just like that. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Why is it a blighting evil? There's something really beautiful about, I think, Koheleth in general, this book in general. Why is this something that's so terrible and enraging and depressing to the author of this book? Because he cares about the guy that's doing that, and he doesn't want him to do that. He doesn't want him to waste his time just amassing a fortune that could just go away with, like a breath. Look, I've seen what is good. He's saying this to the guy who wants to just pile up riches that could go away. Look, I've seen what is good. It is fit to eat and drink and enjoy good things in all his toil. The same thing that we've seen chapter after chapter. What's good? Not just getting a bunch of money and piling it up and locking it up. Working, enjoying your toil, and enjoying the fruits of your toil. Enjoying it means spending it. And we've seen in earlier chapters, on your friends and with others and with your family. That's what life is about. Not just getting a bunch of stuff and putting it in a closet and locking the door. Or in the bank or whatever you want to call it. Okay. That he toils under the sun in the number of the days of his life. So whatever you get, God gave him, for that is his share. So why does this solve the problem that he proposed before? What was the problem that he proposed before? Well, what if the guy worked really hard and then before he was even able to have a son, he lost it all? Or what about the previous chapter? He had all this money and then he died before he could enjoy it. Why does this solve both of those problems? Well, you work, you enjoy the fruits of your work. That means you had a day of enjoyment. You can bank on that. You had that day. And if God gives you 5,000 days, you have 5,000 days of enjoyment. And if God only gives you 3,000, you at least have 3,000 days of enjoyment. What's the mentality he's trying to kind of eradicate here? I'm going to just bust my butt and suffer for the first 20 years of my life, or 30 years or 40 years of my life, and then the last 20 I'm going to enjoy. What if you don't get to them? Okay? That's the attitude he's trying to get rid of. Now, I do want to sort of inject a little bit of a Christian thing here, too. Don't do that with your salvation, either. Don't say, well, I'll repent later. You might not get there. Don't say, I'm going to develop a relationship with God later. You know what heaven is? Heaven is like you're just going to look at God the whole time. And if God is not interesting to you, you're not going to like heaven. Don't wait until then to get you. I mean, you're not going to make it if you don't like God, But don't wait. Don't wait. Oh yeah, those last 10 years I'm going to toss up a bunch of rosaries and then God will have to let me in. If you're not supposed to wait to enjoy, Gupto Lukhma or some a decent cigar or something like that. If you're supposed to enjoy that today, you better get on this God thing. Okay. Also, the man whom God has given wealth and possessions, and whom he has empowered to enjoy it and bear off his share and delight in his soil. This is God's gift. I like that. For you to be able to enjoy the good things in your life, that is God's gift. What's the sort of underlying point here? You don't need a mansion to enjoy it. You just need a place, some safety, some basic necessities. If you don't have those, yeah, that sucks. Let's figure this out and help the people that don't have it and all that. But if they have that, nothing's stopping you from being the happiest person in the world, except for you. And you're stopping yourself from being the happiest person in the world, yeah, Koheleth is mad at you. Because you're wasting a perfectly good human life. Okay? For not much will he recall the days of his life, for God makes him busy with his heart's delight. You're not even going to notice life passing by because you're going to be so happy enjoying it. Okay? You're not going to count the days. You ever talk to like a joyful person? I think I met one time. A joyful person. Father Michael's a very joyful person. And he's seen some stuff, but he's like, how old's Father Michael? 83, I think? You talk to him, like, I've known Father Michael for at least 25 years. He's exactly like when I met him. If you would have seen me 25 years, you wouldn't even recognize me. I've aged way worse than Father Michael has in the last 25 years, So I think that's kind of the thing. You don't even count the days because you're just sort of in the moment and you're just living, All right, let's do chapter 6. Pretty short. It's only 12 verses. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, and it is heavy on humankind. It's kind of funny. Each of these chapters starts with a different description. So I put myself on the spot here. But one of the evils is described as, what was today's? A blighting evil, right? Then there was one last week. It was a different descriptor of the evil. Where is that? Might be the chapter before. Anyway, maybe we can go back and look at that someday. Anyway, today it's an evil that's heavy. In chapter 6. Chapter 5, it was an evil that is a blighting evil. I wonder if there's maybe sort of some hints there as to what's going on in the book. Maybe we'll go through that towards the end of it and kind of look and try to review it all that way. It is heavy on humankind. What's the heavy evil? A man whom God gives wealth and possessions and honor, and he lacks nothing for himself of all he desires, and God does not grant him to enjoy it, for a stranger will enjoy it. This is vanity and an evil sickness. What does that mean? What could it mean? I think it means he dies. He's kind of returning to mortality itself. A heavy evil. Why is it a heavy evil? Because it is a thing that we think about. Or I think it's a thing we should think about, that we're going to die. And it's a heavy evil in the sense of like a sad thing to think about. And it's heavy on us that, maybe I won't be around to enjoy. And what are the things that we might not enjoy? If a man begot 100 children. I mean, it was a different time. I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, and a lot of them had, Solomon, who's sort of attributed as the writer of this book, he had, 300 wives and 700 concubines and whatever. Don't do the math on that one. I don't know. Like, how did you have the time? And many were the days of his life. He might not yet be satisfied with good things, and even a burial he might not have. So he might have all these great things, and then he just dies so early and young, and somehow he might not even be buried, which in the sort of mentality of the time would be such a humiliating, terrible thing to think about, that I might not even be buried. You guys sort of feel that? I don't care. You guys do whatever the hell you want with my body. Feed it to the wolves.
Oh my God.
If you want to feed it to the wolves and then kill those wolves in revenge, that would be kind of funny.
No,
You don't have to do it.
that's weird.
Somebody else can do it. Eaten by sharks. What is it? No, so yeah, Jack has heard me say this. If I'm cremated, I want you to take my ashes and throw them in the eyes of my enemies. Oh, that's a joke. Oh, that's a joke.
Now you need to explain what the church's stand on all that is.
I don't know. You're supposed to be buried, but if you want to be cremated, that's fine. You can be cremated. So, that being said, you need a special permit that's, I don't know how hard it is to get, but I'm guessing in San Diego it's really hard to get, to actually have a burial plot outside of a cemetery. However, I don't think there's any rules about where you can put ashes. So if I'm cremated, you can bury my remains at the cemetery. And put a tree on top of it. It'll be my life tree or whatever. Okay. I don't care about the tree. Okay. Better than he is the stillborn. It's better not to be born than to not be buried. I don't get that. I don't know. Maybe you guys get it better than I do. I don't. Who cares? Honestly.
Better not to be born.
Like, it's that bad to not be buried? Who cares? Whatever. It was a different time, like I said. For in vanity did it come, and into darkness it goes. And in darkness is its name covered. The very sun did not see or know, more ease for it than for him. And were he to live 1,000 years twice over, yet good things he did not enjoy, does not everything go to a single place? All a man's toil is for his own mouth, yet his appetite will not be filled. So it is sort of repeating some of the themes of, I think, chapter 3 or 4. Maybe even before that. Where the basic idea is this. When you think about death, how everything is going to go there, you're just going to be buried in the ground, the rich and the poor, the wise and the fool. No matter how hard you work, that's where you're going to end up. Okay? So, and he kind of returns to this, and so all your work in reality is for your own mouth. On the one hand, you do want to take care of your kids and maybe even leave them an inheritance. On the other hand, you really can't guarantee it. And if you can't guarantee it, you shouldn't really be anxious about it. Do your best, be fair and just to your kids and so on. Maybe leave them a little money. But we watch this from the outside. The priests watch this from the outside. When there's some rich dude dies, you guys probably have heard about this. I don't know, half that money, more than half, goes to lawyers because the kids start suing each other about who gets more of the inheritance. You've heard of that, haven't you? Happens every year. Some rich dude's got millions and millions of bucks. Almost all of it goes to lawyers sometimes. And what a terrible, you see how blinding greed is? Instead of saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to give you 5% more than I think you deserve, but I'll get way more than if we give all of it to lawyers and fight each other. Nope, I would rather lose what's coming to me as long as I take something from you. And these are siblings fighting over what their parents gave them. Horrible. It's shameful. So this is sort of connected to it, except it's on the side of the parents, not the side of the children. On the side of the parents, yeah, whatever you're going to give your kids, maybe they won't even see a penny of it. They're going to tax the crap out of it anyway. A lot of it goes to taxes. So inheritance tax, I think it's called. So there we go. For what advantage has the wise over the fool? What good is it for the poor man to know how to get around among the living? Better what the eyes see than desire going around. Again, it's repetitive. What you can actually get, I'm going to enjoy this water rather than stay thirsty so that in a couple hours I can enjoy whatever, a Dr. Pepper. No, just you got this, enjoy the water. When you get to the Dr. Pepper, you can enjoy that. But don't withhold your enjoyment of this thing that you actually have so that you can enjoy something later. Same sort of repetitive themes that we're getting. This too is mere breath and vanity. What was has already been called by name and is known, as he is man and cannot deal with one more powerful than he. Not sure what's going on here. Because of the... okay. Alter is suggesting that verse is about God already knows what's going to happen. And it's sort of like fate or whatever you want to call it. That like, whether you get that or not, don't worry about whether you're going to get that or not. You've got this right now, embrace the moment and enjoy it. It's sort of connected to the sort of, you can never know the future and you can't really guarantee it. I think, he might be right about that. For there are many words that increase vanity. What is the advantage for man? For who knows what is good for man in life, in his days of vanity? For he spends them like a shadow. Who can tell a man what will be after him under the sun? Yeah, so this whole chapter really was about, let me try to put it in a positive way. Maybe it's not just about you're going to die and everything's just going to turn into dust and everything's going to suck and then your kids are going to die and everything you love is going to die and all your money is going to go away. Maybe there's a little more than that. Maybe that's his way of saying, therefore, don't worry about the future. And maybe if you're not worried about the future, that really will give you freedom to enjoy the present. Does that make sense? I think Jesus does say something similar to that, right? Do not be anxious about tomorrow. Jesus has his way of saying is really funny. He says, tomorrow will worry about itself. Let tomorrow worry about itself. You know, I think that's really funny. It assumes that somebody has to worry about tomorrow. And he says, you know what? Okay, fine. Somebody has to worry about tomorrow. Let tomorrow worry about tomorrow. I like that. Look at the birds of the air, he says. You ever do that? Look at the birds of the air. We have that aviary, right, in Balboa. You know what that thing is? You know that weird shaped thing, that cage in Balboa Park? It's like round. It has that big pool in front of it people take pictures of when they're tourists. Isn't there birds in there? No. Oh, that's plants. Is there an aviary? Yeah. At the zoo there is, okay. In my defense, Jesus also says, look at the flowers. Dodge that one.
We have a cattery that has poles and it's outdoors and stuff. And I looked through the blinds 1 second and on top of the pole was a roadrunner.
Yeah, I saw a roadrunner at church here. You know what a roadrunner is? They're a big, weird bird. Yeah, we saw one here at church. You know those coyotes that walk through the parking lot all the time? Have you ever seen a coyote? Nobody's going to come to church again. It's usually around 9 or 10 at night, and they're all the way on they never go near people. All the way on the other side, like between the church and those houses, they just kind of walk along that hill. Do not feed the coyotes. Yeah, I was there the other night. There was a barbecue, and we were there late and whatever. And I just saw them walking right by, and Father Day's like, yeah, it's usually around 9:30 or 10 o'clock every night. They're just chilling, walking by. Yeah. They're not birds of the air, chickens. They're birds of the ground. We had a bunch of chickens at the seminary. And then the coyote, there's like a den of coyotes near the seminary. And they woke up one morning. It's when I wasn't living there. They woke up one morning and just a bloodbath. Just blood, like, you know, like in the Nile River turned red. They just had just feathers and bones everywhere. So there goes the chickens. And they were all relieved because the chickens are kind of their work. And they didn't want to. But chickens give you eggs, man. It's so worth it. If I had like a house, there's no way I wouldn't have chickens. They're the best thing to have. Who has chickens? Raise your hand. No, not one person has chickens. Who has a backyard? All of you get chickens today. They're not. If you just have we had like 20 of them. If you just have like 5 of them, they're really easy to take care of. They're not that hard to clean, like their stuff. But once they get full grown, they start giving you like an egg a day. And they're amazing eggs, like she's saying, but you get one every day. So if you have 5 chickens, that's 5 eggs a day. At the seminary, we had 20-something eggs every single. We didn't know what to do with them. We were giving away to people. And what do we feed them? The crap that we didn't know. We fed them the crap that we didn't, instead of throwing it away, you're going to throw the rice away. Give it to the chickens. You get an egg out of it in a couple of days. Why wouldn't you? Please. I miss my chickens, is what I'm trying to say. We used to give them like Rizza Maraca. We used to give them chicken. And then I put a stop to that. That's kind of messed up. You know, isn't that messed up? Like, that's like your cousin. Don't give chicken. There's probably nothing wrong. They ate it. They didn't care. But, like, there's probably something wrong with that. I don't know. They are the dumbest animal on the face of the earth. Oh, my gosh, they're so stupid. Okay, I was just killing time. We're done. Any questions, anything? All right, let me kind of open it up to, like, questions on what I've talked about or anything else. Any topic you can ask me about. And I reserve the right to answer. I'm not going to answer that. Or I don't know, or I don't care. There's no questions? What's going on in the world? Any current events?
I have a question with respect to the dying part, and that is, I thought always the Catholic Church stance on that is that you have to be buried in some way, whether you be in a coffin or whether you be in an urn. You can't just throw your ashes out.
Yeah, I know. I was joking with that.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just serious.
The eyes of your enemy. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Even if you're cremated, the remains have to be kept somewhere
Yeah,
in a respectful. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Cremation is okay now because it used to be associated with paganism, so that's why the church said.
That's right. That's a good clarification.
Okay, so I was just wondering because my husband wanted me to fly in a little plane and just out over this.
Just tell him you'll do it, then don't do it.
Virginia, and I'm gonna do up
Jesse. Just tell him okay, and then don't do it. I'm just kidding. Okay. Other questions? Maybe a little bit less morbid. Nothing? Everyone's morbid? Yeah, go ahead. So my homily on Sunday? Okay.
It's probably a dumb question, but you said that if someone betrays you, there's 3 steps that you have to follow before, like, and you can't skip the steps. First step is you address your issue with that person,
Yep.
etc. Can you just not address it at all and just let it go, or do you have to at least follow those steps?
That's a good question. Do you have to address it? If it really, like, if you really truly are just forgiving and letting it go, then yeah, that's fine.
So the key is you have to forgive and let go.
Oh yeah.
If you can't let it go.
Jesus is all about forgiveness, yeah. You know why? Because if you don't, it's going to become this kind of passive aggressive thing and you're going to hold it in and it's going to come out in ways that you don't notice. There's going to be a little resentment there. So either really truly let it go and forgive or address it. Don't do the sort of halfway thing. Yeah, that's a good question. I like that. Now you can skip a step. So there's steps where if your brother, whatever, offends you, go talk to him, you and him alone, then bring a couple of friends as witnesses, then bring it to the church. Feel free to skip that step. Okay? I do not care about your business or your problems. I always say this at school during speeches or whatever. I tell my students, like at graduation, I told them, like, guys, anytime in your lives, if you ever need something, please do not hesitate to reach out to Steve Cramp, who is the literature teacher at the school. So instead of me, just go talk to him. That's the joke. They found it funnier than you did. I hope. Other questions? Is there any current events happening? Is stuff happening in the world? Nothing? There was an oil spill.
I have a current event that you.
Somebody else though. You've already had one. Let's see if there's somebody else. Chargers are good. Are the Chargers good?
Yes.
I don't have any commentary on that. Isaac, what's up with you, man?
I don't know. My mom is freaking out about.
Just you don't have to finish that sentence.
She's heard that Kyrie Irving is banned from the NBA because of the.
I do not even know who that is. The whole sports world, I do not care at all. Is that bad? David's like, that's bad. That's a mortal sin. Okay, I guess nobody else has one. Go ahead.
Ooh.
Did you forget? Okay, good. Okay, good. I will. I'm so close. Okay, go ahead.
And what it is there was an encounter this weekend between the Pope and Pelosi,
Mhm.
and it was very cordial, there's been some commentary with respect to that, and I wondered what you thought about it. So, there was no statement on his part as to,
The Pope is a head of state, and he meets heads of state all the time. And there's people that want to bash anything he does, and him shaking hands with somebody, they're going to, you know why? Because people are bored and they want to talk about something, and you might as well talk about the Pope if it gets you viewers and listeners. Yeah, he's a head of state. He's met all kinds of politicians all the time, so I would make more of it than it is. Yeah. Yeah, no comment. Good or bad or whatever. He's never met me. Must be nice meeting the Pope. I did see Pope Benedict in 2005.
wow.
I didn't meet him or shake his hand or anything, but I was 10 feet away from him. And then I had a bunch of rosaries and miraculous medals in a bag, and I just held it up bless this. And then he had this big blessing of everything there, and I really held it up absorb this papal blessing. I think I still have some of those. That was a long time ago. 16 years ago. Still got a couple of those. No, you can't have any. Okay.
Was our bishop ordained by him? John Paul?
Bishop Shalita was ordained a priest by Pope John Paul II, who's a saint. So that means our bishop is a third-class relic. Because something that's touched by a saint is a third-class relic. So he himself is a walking relic.
Father Felix was ordained also by John Paul II.
I don't think so. Was he?
Yeah.
He did another ordination? I don't know he did them that often.
He said-
Okay, no, if he said it, that's it.
Yeah.
They were both ordained bishops by our patriarch. But yeah, I was ordained a priest by Bishop Ibrahim. Yeah. It's all a blur.
What does the church think about the vaccination? I know all on October 18, all parents, especially in LA,
Yeah.
they're not going to send their kids to school because there's going to be a mandatory
Yeah,
vaccination.
we don't have a horse in that fight. It's okay if you want to do it. If you don't, whatever. Deal with it.
I'll do
Yeah.
the vaccine.
What is it?
I'll do
Yeah.
the vaccine.
Yeah. You can talk to Emmanuel if you want more information about it. Yes, sir.
I don't know if this is true, but I heard this once. In order to have a consecrated altar, does there need to be a relic there?
Yeah, I think that's still a rule. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure, but there used to be a rule. You're right that there used to be a rule. It might still be. I can even look into this. I'm not even sure, but that you had to have a bone from a saint, or skin or something from a saint in any altar. No, I don't think it's a rule anymore, because now the consecration of the altar, you just need oil. Actually, in the Chaldean rite, there's two different consecrations. There's one with oil, and then there's one without even oil. If it's a rededication, you bought a new one, you don't need to do the whole thing. Yeah. So I don't think it's a rule anymore.
Do we have a relic in St. Peter's?
I don't know. Father Michael would know that, but I don't know. Yeah. We have one at the seminary altar. It's not a relic. It's part of the sort of tombstone of a saint that I stole when I was in Iraq. I stole so much stuff when I visited Iraq. Oh my gosh. Tons. I have it's those pill boxes that people have for different. So there's one for an entire month, 4 weeks. It's full. I have one of those. I brought it with me to Iraq and I labeled each one. It's full of all kinds of different stuff that I stole.
Did you go to confession?
I'm not ashamed of this at all. No, I did not go to confession because that stuff's mine. It belongs to me as a priest of the Chaldean Church. Okay, yes.
So, I've always been curious about this. In the Roman Rite, it's tradition to receive the Eucharist on the tongue, but I read that in the Chaldean Rite, it's the opposite.
Yep.
Where does that date back to? Or do you just give a brief synopsis?
Communion in the hand in the Chaldean Church, at the very least, dates to the 6th century. There are documents that say, and we sing it sometimes, it's strengthen, O Lord, the hands that extend and receive the host. There are rubrics that are there. So it's as ancient as it gets. Yep. It's the traditional way. And if you see in the Assyrian church, which is our sister church, that's the way they receive. They use the old rubric.
The early church, with the apostles, was it also by hand?
We don't have documents from that time, so it's speculation either way. So there are people that speculate. The one way people speculate is, well, whatever my tradition is, that must have been the way the apostles did it. So maybe, but I don't I'm a little bit more cautious than that. I know in our rite, as from time immemorial, that was the way to receive. Manny.
So obviously you thought about this, but are they seriously entertaining that Jesus got up and put the
They are.
roast in each?
They are seriously entertaining that.
That sounds, isn't that completely opposite of what the Jewish, because we know what the Jews do in Passover.
Yep. Yeah, here's the thing. You don't even have to go that far. It's in the Gospels. It says he gave it to them. And I've never given something to somebody by ear. Jack, let me give you this marker.
Thank you, Father.
So, like, we all know what give means, but like some people there is a certain like dignity to that tradition, but in a kind of defense of that dignity, they kind of lose their mind sometimes, you know. But we're all crazy sometimes. All right. Good?
Is the Syrian rite in conjunction with the Pope? 'Cause I don't
No,
know much about
the Assyrian church is the sister church of the Chaldean church that's not in union with the Pope.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just wondered.
Yep.
Just curious.
Yep. All right. Hang out, talk, and chill, and say hi to each other and whatever. And I will see you next week otherwise. Peace out.
If you become a saint, can we?
If
Would
what?
be for crap, umbrella. Became a saint.
Yes.
We use you to consecrate some altars.
Oh, that's good. Use my teeth or something?
Yeah.
That's better than the wolves
Put them
thing.
in pill boxes.
Yeah, that's better than the wolves thing.